And the Mars can be in any of the signs. So you've got 144 different types of that Moon-Mars factor, and even more if you really you get up into almost hundreds and hundreds of types. So this is really sophisticated classifying systems. It's difficult to walk in and say this means this. You have to go in like I am and try and imagine and work the two sides and figure. But as you're figuring out, boy, when you have a specific problem, someone's suicidal, and you're working on this, it really opens doorways to walk in. But it requires taking the time to do this. You know, I generally put in half an hour of prep work before I see someone. I can look at a chart in a couple of minutes, see what's going on, but how to reach the person, what they need, that takes a deeper reflection. I mean, really, you should do a natal chart first and spend a few hours reflecting on it before you interpret someone's chart, and then leave a couple of weeks, and then before you even do the transits. It would be better to do 2 or 3 levels of consultations than just doing one and just doing what most people want, just the one, because they don't know. So when you're trying to use astrology, it's one thing. When you try to learn it, you're seeing all the sophistication. Like most people want to dance to a piece of music, it feels good. But boy, not everybody wants to find all the subtleties of the different notes and scales and how each instrument is affecting each other at a certain time. Same thing. Musical theory, astrology theory, same thing. So this is the player piano music of your DNA, or your soul's DNA as it moves around in life. I'm just trying to take these symbols from astrology and make them a little more experiential. So the words are the lowest form of astrology. Sound, color, insights. There's many other ways to tune into this than words. But we're coming from our knowledge in words. That's why astrology seems so incredible. That it gives us such an incredible sensitivity to the textures and natures of life. Okay, so because the Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn work together, Mars is how you put out energy. If you have bad habits or you're aggressive in your behavior and your basic habit patterns, that abrasiveness is going to come out and affect who you're going to have competitive. Anyone who gets close to you is going to be competitive. That competitiveness is going to affect your understanding. You're going to probably be, so the Mars and the Jupiter Saturn kind of work their own way out, and in the middle of that, they're affecting your moon. But let's just take Jupiter to the moon for now. Jupiter to the moon, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It's supposed to be good luck, joviality, fun-loving, expansion. Wow, it's true. If you have the moon, the good, if there's no bad aspects there, but usually the difficult aspects of the moon to Jupiter is over-expansion. It's sure at someone else's expense. It's another, like Venus, it's another overindulgence factor, exaggerating what you need. It can be a big family, it can be a big home. Usually it's a big stomach. It can be big breasts. Like it can be. There's a tendency to exaggerate your nutrition, your habit forms, your lifestyle, your feelings. You get a mood. Everyone's gonna know you got a mood. You're gonna magnify it. So there's the understanding of family and your past and of past experiences. If there's stressful aspects with Jupiter, you're going to be struggling to understand why did that happen. You're not going to deal with it just in the moment. It's going to have a residual effect where you have to reflect on it for some time and work. And every time it comes up, you're going to have this thing to understand. But it's going to affect your physical behavior, of your lifestyle, your basic habits will be exaggerated. Try and do too many things, or it's spaced like if you're looking at how you're eating, it's going to exaggerate how you're eating. If you look at your sympathy link with your mom, it might be too smothering or too much affection or too much affection demanded of you. Or you might come from a large family. So you can't make one judgment and think it's going to stick. You got to have, if you had 1,000, it would be safer. You're going through all different, as many possibilities as you can imagine from your own matrix. But when someone's very different from you, sometimes you have to stop it and work out what could this be. And you spend an evening working on that aspect. The aspect is what? It's a stressful, it's how much stress is between the 2 levels of consciousness of the planets involved. Planets of understanding versus planets of security. I got to have the security. Or if it's negative, I'll never have enough security. It's going to exaggerate. Jupiter is going to exaggerate the moods and the feelings. So that may cause a crazy lifestyle. It may be very good for a writer or someone who's using their imagination. They can go back and remember everything and embellish it to no end. If the moon's in Mercury or in Jupiter, Gemini or something, if the moon's somewhere else, it will pick up that attitude and it will embellish that. But when there's a conjunction square opposition, the conjunction is considered very lucky and good, but it still has this problem of overindulgence, of exaggerating, of misunderstanding your moods and feelings, misunderstanding of sympathy links between people. Okay, so we're seeing more puzzles. Aspects are like puzzles. You're trying to figure out the type of stress. There's all these different types of stress. Who would have ever thought? Boy, if you're a person that worries about stress, by the end of these next two classes, you're going to have no end of the amount of things you're going to worry about. But really, we're looking at the moon and worries specifically at this point. So, okay. So that indulgence, depending on how you're living and what your memories are, everything's going to get exaggerated by Jupiter, or made multiple increased, and it's going to puzzle. It's going to increase so many ways to look at this, so many ways to understand it, which often means a misunderstanding. I haven't got it figured out. I'm still working on this. Or exaggerating what I want. I got to have the second meal. I got to have just, you see the Jupiter influence coming in, challenging. Is that the right way to live or the wrong way to live or whatever? You know, and again, when you react, you're not reacting. Something hits that nerve of the moon Jupiter. You're going to respond with your Mercury. You say something. You respond with your Venus. You like it. You're attracted or repulsed. You're going to say something with your Mars, and you're going to fight it or not fight it. You're going to have your confidence or not confidence. All of these layers come into play around any one thing. So these are like nerves. Like nerves are targets. If you hit this nerve, I'm going to react. So when we're looking at the planets, these are our triggers, or our nerves, and we're seeing the stress points that will really set us off. And set off these triggers. So if you're working with a problem kid, it's always a good example to think of teaching or working with a kid. They're going to have trouble having boundaries with having too many. They're going to exaggerate their feelings, and they're going to have to work hard in teaching them what's right and what's wrong. They could grow up with a total sense of believing grass doesn't hurt anything. I can smoke all the time; it won't make a bit of difference. But 20 years later, 30 years later, they're still got cancer from the smoke in the lungs. You know, so, it wouldn't be from. Okay. Anyways, so Jupiter is just understanding the Spanish. Where do you want to live? What's secure? I want to travel. I want to. There's so many ways Jupiter can come and affect the moon. But when there's stress there, there's going to be a struggle there, or some behavioral pattern, some habit, some sympathy, some need that's going to be exaggerated. And it can be a spectrum of things, but you'll see it. As soon as you notice it's there and you start looking for it, it won't be long before you see 2 or 3 things that are reinforcing that, or a one main thing. If they have the aspect, it's going to be in their nature. Your interpretation of it may not be exactly right. You may have to struggle to get different takes on it until you tune into what it is, but you're getting a general shift of something's happening from here. Okay, we get out to Saturn. These are all like open-ended puzzles. There's not a definition of an aspect. We're just taking easy or difficult. It's enough. You don't have to add all these other strings. Well, it's phase, it's this phase, it's that phase. You could think about those things later, but that's a technical thing. It's not even helpful when you're trying to understand a person's character. It's a little bit, but really the main core things of the stress between the planets and understanding these different levels of consciousness, it's only as good as you have understood those layers of consciousness or can see them in your life. And most of us are just scrambling them all together like a salad dressing mixed up. We're just being me, and it's all of these things. We haven't taken the time to reflect and to perceive, to see each layer distinctly. This is the yoga. Okay, Saturn is the Grim Reaper, the serious, strict authority. It's the father, it's the discipline, it's the depression, it's restriction. Jupiter expands, Saturn's the limits of things. You only have these limits, there's these rules, there's these restrictions. So Mars is your bones, Mars is your muscles, Saturn is your bones. And all life is an understanding of how much you use your muscles or how much you use your bones, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. If you push too hard Mars, you break bones, Saturn. If you restrict too much Saturn, you never get any experiences that you desire from Mars. You live a weak or cowardly life. So Saturn is this limit, the sense of defense. You can do anything you want. You can live any way you want, but it takes some discipline. It takes some defense. You have to be prepared. So Saturn has a defensive approach, a restrictive cautious, inhibiting approach. Jupiter's expansive, but Saturn restricts. So what's Saturn going to do to the moon? As soon as you got Saturn conjunct, square, or opposed moon, you got someone who's depressed. You get close to them and they get depressed. It's hard to cheer them up. But they also can be overly serious, over disciplined. I'm working this, I'm eating just like this. They're not going to be that explorative over the food they eat either. They're not going to want to necessarily fester or overindulge on memories, because even if they're bad, they're just depressing. How do I get out of this? But it means they're rarely going to be content. They have the serious element about how they're living. So what's security? What feels secure? The Saturn will restrict their empathy or their sympathy links. So they'll be more defensive and not inclined to show their feelings. They're more inclined to wait to see if a feeling's safe or respectable.